everyone, I'm so glad to be back with our Fairy Tale Fridays. I'm Princess Odette, the Swan Princess, and we've got a story time and a paint along with us today. We've got lots of furry friends with us too. This is Sir Duff, a Knight of the Kingdom. He works under General Puffin. And you know Sweet Princess Daisy, who's here keeping an eye on us. They couldn't let us have a Fairy Tale Friday without them today, so we needed to introduce them because I'm sure they'll introduce themselves. We're going to be reading a story today. It's called The Ugly Duckling. I think this is not only one of my favorite stories, but a really important story. The Ugly Duckling. In the heart of the beautiful countryside lived a mother duck. Her nest was in the loveliest spot under a big shady tree. She longed to stretch her legs and go for a swim in the warm summer sun. But instead, she sat patiently, waiting for her 5 eggs to hatch. After many long and quiet days, Mother Hen heard a pecking sound. Could it be time? Mother Duck hopped off her nest to peek at the eggs. One wiggled, another wobbled. The pecking sounds got louder and louder. Crack, 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 crack! Out popped 1, 2, 3, 4 ducklings. The downy youngsters scrambled out of their shells as quickly as their webbed feet could waddle. "Follow me," Mother Duck smiled. "We'll go for a refreshing swim in the lake." But before she could lead her ducklings to the water, Mother Duck remembered the 5th egg. "Oh dear," she cried. "The biggest egg of all still hasn't hatched." "Oh well, I sat this long, I might as well sit a while longer. That's how I felt about quarantine. How about you?" And so Mother Duck settled back on the biggest egg. Finally, after a very long time, the big egg began to wiggle and wobble. Mother Duck and her precious ducklings gathered around the nest to watch. At last, crack! The new hatchling broke out of his shell. Instead of being sunshiny yellow, though, the new duckling was a dull gray, and he was awfully big. "Honk! Honk!" he greeted his new family. But his brothers and sisters weren't so friendly. "You're ugly," said the ducklings. "You must be a turkey," Mother Duck said. "All my other children are the spitting image of their father." Then Mother Duck turned her back on the big hatchling and quacked to the others. "Come along, children. We've waited long enough to go for a swim." The ugly duckling wanted to swim too. He followed the lake and floated easily on the surface. The cool water felt so refreshing on his big floppy feet. "Look, Mom, I can swim too," he called, but Mother Duck and the ducklings swam away and pretended not to notice him. Soon Mother Bird came. Oh, goodness, we're getting ahead of our story. Isn't it silly when pages stick together? That could make for an interesting story, couldn't it? Heartbroken, the ugly duckling swam to a quiet spot among the marshy reeds. There, hidden from the rest of the world, the poor duckling drooped his head and cried. The ugly duckling looked at the ripples his tears made in the water. He saw a horrible sight. It was his own reflection. "I am ugly," he cried. "No wonder no one wants to be near me." The ugly duckling decided to run far away where no one would be bothered by his ugliness. He waddled through fields and glens deep into the forest. Finally, he came upon a clearing where he saw a nest of young birds chirping happily away. The ugly duckling climbed into the tree. "Come play with us," the baby bird said. "Mother is returning soon with food. She'll be happy to have you in our nest." And so the ugly duckling played with his new brothers and sisters and waited patiently for Mother Bird. Soon Mother Bird came home with a fat, juicy worm in her mouth. The ugly duckling had forgotten how hungry he was and snapped the worm right out of Mother Bird's mouth. And he swallowed it whole. "Squawk, squawk, squawk!" scolded Mother Bird. "Shame on you, you big ugly thing! How dare you take food away from my babies?" And she shooed him out of her nest and far away from her children. Ugly Duckling wandered for many lonely hours until he came to a large pond. There, floating among the reeds, he saw the biggest, friendliest-looking duck he had ever seen. "Perhaps he won't mind that I'm so ugly," he said hopefully. The Ugly Duckling snuggled close to his newfound friend. He was so overcome with happiness he didn't even notice that the duck wasn't a duck at all. He was nothing more than painted wood. The Ugly Duckling nudged the smiling decoy. "Let's play!" The wooden duck bobbed his head up and down and up and down. "At last someone wants to play with me!" cried the Ugly Duckling. Excited, he climbed on the big duck's back and jumped into the water. Splash! What fun! He continued to splash and play, filling the pond with waves. The decoy bobbed back and forth until, bonk! Its big wooden bill hit the Ugly Duckling smack dab in the middle of his forehead. The Ugly Duckling paddled to safety as quickly as he could. Then he plopped onto a log and cried his little heart out. Suddenly he heard a honk, honk, honking all around him. He looked up and saw the most wonderful sight of all, a flock of magnificent young birds. He thought they were the loveliest creatures he'd ever seen. If only he could be half as lovely. The Ugly Duckling was so elated to have company that he dove all the way to the bottom of the pond. But when he popped up at the surface, he found himself alone again. The other birds were paddling away, honk, honk, honking in the distance. "Why should I think they would want to play with me?" the Ugly Duckling thought gloomily. Just when he thought he would be alone and miserable forever, something amazing happened. The beautiful birds returned, and with them swam the most glorious bird in the world. "Look, Mother," honked the happy swans. "We found a new brother." The Ugly Duckling couldn't believe his eyes or ears. "You're home now, little one," said the mother swan as she cradled the Ugly Duckling under her snowy white wing. "You are a fine young swan." From the shore, Mother Duck and her ducklings watched the graceful swan welcome the Ugly Duckling into her family. As he swam away with his new family, the Ugly Duckling ruffled his feathers and held his head up high. Never before had he felt so much love in his heart. I think this is such an important story, especially right now as we start to notice everybody's differences, and our differences too. And remembering that they're not just different, they're what make us beautiful and special too. The Ugly Duckling found a family that looked like him, but we don't have to do that to find a place where we belong. We just have to all have kind hearts, and when we find others with kind hearts, that's what makes a family. So I'm so glad to have so many kind hearts here in the Mascot Miracles Foundation to be in my swan family. Thank you so much, and I hope that we can all celebrate those differences, because how boring would it be if we only ever heard one bird song? All together is what makes it beautiful when we step outside our castles to listen. So I thought we could draw a swan painting while we were here, so that we could have something fun to do after our bedtime story. So I have some paint set up over here. You can still do this with crayons or markers or anything else you have. I just happen to have some paints. So this was a white piece of paper. It's a big canvas, and I painted it blue so that our swan would show up a little bit better. But maybe you could use colored construction paper instead. Maybe that would help it pop. Or maybe you have an old piece of cardboard that's already brown or a different color. That would be so pretty to paint on. Ooh, or maybe some watercolors on a piece of wood. Wouldn't that be so cool? That's the best thing about painting and art. You can put it on whatever you'd like. Let's see. And we always roll up our sleeves because we don't want to make a mess. We always clean up our own messes, so it's always good to make sure our mess isn't that big. We're going to start with some white paint, or white whatever else you have. Some chalk would be fun to draw this too, chalk on the sidewalk. I'm going to use a great big brush because I'm going to try to paint it nice and big so you can see it. Our white paint, and first we're going to start by making kind of a teardrop shape. If it was kind of falling sideways, a sideways teardrop. So we're going to start here and make a little triangle. That's easy, right? Like a slice of pizza? And then we're going to make a letter U, like a big smiley face. And then we're going to bring it up and around, and there's our teardrop. That's pretty easy, right? Now we're going to fill it in. That's my favorite part. I think in princess school I just enjoyed coloring inside the lines a little too much. I liked shading and making things pretty. Which is funny because if you know my story and my movies at all, I'm very good at coloring outside the lines in life. Maybe that's why it's so fun to color inside the lines when we're doing art. You can do as many layers as it takes to make it the color you want. I'm using acrylic paint so it's easy to wash. But watercolors would be very pretty too and very befitting for a swan. So now we're going to make his neck. And the neck is kind of half of an S shape. If we look at our swan here, swans all have this beautiful, graceful arched neck right along here. So that's what we're going to do next. We're going to start right down here at the edge of our teardrop. And we're going to carry that line all the way up through here and make a letter C. Ta-da! And then we need a head there at the end. So we're going to make one more little round oval. What are some other things that are ovals? I always think of cookies, but cookies can be any shape. Going to darken that. As we're making this, I think that we should see all of your best swan art in the comments down below. Maybe we will draw names for a winner and we can send them this swan painting. What do you think? So you can hang them together. Ta-da! Now we need a different color because it's time for our beak. And what color beaks do birds have? Are they yellow? I think so. You can do yellow, or sometimes swans have black beaks too. But I'm gonna do yellow because it's the color of sunshine. We're going to make another pizza slice, another triangle, and we're going to pull it right off the edges of our swan's face. So they kind of looking down, kind of like the Ugly Duckling. Just like that. Just a happy pizza slice. Okay, come back over here and fill it in. In yellow, it kind of looks like it could be a pizza slice. Did anyone have pizza at their castles for dinner tonight? There we go. Now we need a little bit of black because it looks like this guy needs some lines on the outside and he doesn't have any eyes. How is he supposed to see without any eyes? So we're going to get a little bit of black. Remember, with black, a little bit goes a long way. So we're going to use an itty bitty brush. And we're going to give them an eye right here. We're just going to do another letter C, an upside down letter C, right there. We've got eyes. Now swans have something really cool. See this black right here? That's kind of where their nose goes. So we're going to make that by making another teardrop. We're going to come up from the beak and follow it right along there. Good job. And then We're going to do another upside down U for the wing. Now this part's optional, but I like to do it. I like to draw an outline around the outside because it helps hide any mistakes you could have made. But even if you made mistakes, it's just part of the story of the painting. It's part of your memory. Alright, so we're going to go around the outside. Trying to not cover it up too bad for you without getting my white sleeves in the paint. At least it's white paint, right? We're going to turn this upside down to do this. And then it can be facing you. That's a little better. It's been a while since I've got to paint with friends. We should paint together soon, when we can all be together. This is really good practice too if you're working on your handwriting, or if you're just learning your letters. Drawing is the best way to practice. Because it's so much fun, you barely even think you could be practicing. Now that we see that outline, I think this nose needs to be a little bit bigger. Just going to follow it around the outside and make it a tiny bit bigger. There we go, that's a good looking nose. And we'll turn him around again. I don't know, do you think it's a him or a her? Is it a swan prince or a swan princess? You can make yours whatever you want. And remember to share a picture of it so that you can go in the drawing. To do for Father's Day coming up too. I bet your dads would love a painting that you made just for them. Maybe you could draw a little tie on the swan just like your dad. This is where a pen or a marker would probably be a bit more useful. But I like the paint. I tend to have really shaky hands, so this helps me practice being able to hold them still. So warm outside, it's finally summer that my paint's drying up so quick. But it's getting so beautiful that it's wonderful to paint outside your castle. I can't wait to see everything you guys come up with. I think it would be fun to paint a swan and then glue feathers all over it, so it was fuzzy like a real swan. all done, but we have to do something special first. We can't have a painting without signing our name on it. Let's see, I'm going to write my name. I'm going to write, maybe it'll come out. Love. Princess. Odette. You almost did it in one line. And I like to sign my name with little wings. Even though I'm a human now, I will always remember my swan days. And there we go! I can't wait to see what you come up with. Thank you so much for joining me this Fairy Tale Friday, and I can't wait to see you next time.